All right, let's dive into the story of a warship that was so advanced, so fearsome, it's pretty much become the stuff of legend. We're talking about a vessel that completely dominated the seas centuries ago, and, it still captures our imagination today. But here's the big question. Was it real? And was it truly the world's first ironclad ship? Okay, so this right here, this is the Korean turtle ship, or a Geobukseon. Its very name just conjures up this image of an impenetrable fortress floating on the water. But as we're about to see, the real story behind this ship, and whether it really was the world's first ironclad, is one of naval history's absolute greatest mysteries. So, to really understand this incredible machine, we've got to understand the crisis that gave birth to it. We need to go back in time, all the way to the late 16th century, to a war that would literally define a nation. So Japan's invasion was just swift and brutal. It pushed the Korean kingdom right to the very edge of collapse. I mean, the army was in full retreat, and the entire fate of the nation, it suddenly fell on the shoulders of its navy. They were the last line of defense. And this is where a hero enters the picture. Admiral Yi Sun-sin. The guy was a brilliant naval strategist, a real military genius. He took an older ship design and completely transformed it into his secret weapon. See, he needed something totally new, a vessel that could just punch right through enemy lines and take a beating. And what he came up with was, well, nothing short of revolutionary. So what exactly was it that made the turtle ship the ultimate weapon of its time? Come on, let's break down its incredible design piece by piece. When you look at historical drawings like this one, you can start to see why this thing was so darn effective. I mean, it doesn't look like any other warship from that period, right? It was compact, it was powerful, and it was built for one single purpose: total domination in close quarters naval combat. Okay, so each of these features was pretty impressive on its own, but when you put them all together, wow, it was a perfect system. That fully covered deck, it meant the crew was totally protected from arrows and gunfire. The oars meant it could turn on a dime, super maneuverable. And then you have heavy cannons on all sides, creating this 360-degree kill zone. And those iron spikes on the roof, they made the main Japanese tactic, boarding, basically a suicide mission. And this just perfectly illustrates the result. And listen, this isn't Korean propaganda or something. This is a direct quote from the enemy. We're talking about two Japanese commanders describing how these turtle ships would just sail right into the middle of their fleet, firing cannons at point-blank range and just leaving their ships completely shredded. And get this, the design even used psychological warfare. I mean, just imagine you're on a Japanese ship and you see this fearsome dragon's head suddenly emerge from the smoke. Not only was it absolutely terrifying to look at, but it could also spew out this dense, toxic smoke. It was basically a smokescreen to disorient the entire enemy fleet and just create total chaos. But for all of these amazing confirmed features, there's one question that remains the most debated, the most controversial. It's a mystery that historians are still arguing about to this very day. And here it is, the million-dollar question. Was it the world's first ironclad ship? I mean, the legend says the whole roof was covered in iron plates, which would make it an ironclad warship centuries ahead of its time. But what does the evidence actually say? Well, the historical evidence is split, and it's absolutely fascinating. On one side, you've got a Japanese account from the war that specifically mentions Korean ships covered in iron. And Japan even tried to build its own iron-plated ships soon after, maybe as a response. But then on the other side, Admiral Yi's own super detailed reports, they never once mention iron plates. And some historians argue that the Japanese covered in iron comment might have just been talking about that dense roof of iron spikes. So here's the bottom line. We know for a fact it was a floating fortress protected by that crazy spiked roof. And that alone was revolutionary, right? The whole fully iron-plated thing remains a really compelling but unproven theory. But honestly, at the end of the day, ironclad or not, its performance in battle really speaks for itself. Okay, so the war did eventually end, but the story of the turtle ship, oh, that was just beginning. Which brings us to the question, why does this 16th century warship continue to be such a powerful symbol, even hundreds of years later? Well, it's become this powerful symbol of Korean resilience, of ingenuity, and of the will to fight back against truly impossible odds. Its design is just instantly recognizable, and it's been celebrated and reconstructed for generations. And I mean, you can see its legacy everywhere in modern Korea. You've got full-scale replicas that you can actually go and walk through. It's the start of huge blockbuster movies and epic TV shows. Heck, it's even immortalized on the national currency. It is so much more than just a historical artifact. You know, the turtle ship really represents that incredible moment in history when superior technology and brilliant strategy, all led by a legendary admiral, literally saved a nation. It's that timeless story of the underdog, of a smaller force overcoming a much larger one through pure, raw innovation. So yeah, while the debate over its iron plates might never be fully settled, its impact is absolutely undeniable. And it leaves us with this one fascinating final thought. History is just full of these legends that seem way too incredible to be true. But as the turtle ship proves, sometimes the most amazing stories are the ones that actually happened.